If NASA really made it to the moon, how exactly did they get back? Think about what it takes to launch a rocket on Earth.
10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Massive fuel tanks, reinforced concrete pads, countdown towers, hundreds of engineers staring at screens, sweating every second. Controlled explosions powerful enough to shake the ground for miles. Now compare that to what we're shown on the moon. A tiny metal cabin sitting on dusty ground, legs thinner than a street sign pole. And we're told this thing just lifted off with perfect precision. No launch pad, no blast crater, no scorch marks, no backup systems, no visible fuel tanks, no launch tower, no robotic arms. The lunar dust? Completely undisturbed in the photos. Just a box on spindly legs that somehow breaks free from lunar gravity, perfectly times a rendezvous with a craft moving thousands of miles per hour, and then brings everyone safely back to Earth like it's a casual Sunday drive. Now imagine that same claim anywhere else. Someone says they drove a car out of a deep ditch, with no wheels, no engine, no ramps, and no tow truck. Would you believe it? The story sounds clean, until you slow it down, zoom in, and really look. That's when the questions start stacking up, and suddenly, the official version feels less like a memory, and more like a carefully written script.
Perhaps the Apollo space program would be better titled The Sound and Light Show, for what we actually hear or don't hear on the soundtracks is often inconsistent with both physics and the facts as presented to us. Just listen to this soundtrack as a bobsleigh team races down the famous Samaritz Bob Run. You can hear the pilot announcing the names of the corners they're negotiating.
That is the Cornwall Wall. Next will be Snake 1 and Snake 2. And now is Sunny, Mesh and Dixon. And then is coming Horseshoe, Telephone, Shamrock, Tree, Hip, Fox.
This is hugely exciting to listen to. We feel that we're virtually inside the bobsleigh with the team. Yet while this sport is no doubt enjoyable for the participants, it's also a highly stressful physical situation. Listening to the bob pilot, we can hear the vibration and the tension engendered by the sheer speed and potential danger of the situation. Now let's listen to the two Apollo 11 astronauts landing on another planet for the first time in history.
Feet, 3.5 down, 9 forward. Okay, 75 feet. Guys looking good, down a half. 6 forward. 30 seconds. Lights on. Forward. Forward. 40 feet, down 2.5. Picking up some dust. Straight shadow. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. Contact light.
These intrepid men in their lunar module flying machine were virtually sitting on top of its descent engine, which was roaring away, producing up to 10,000 pounds of thrust and burning at a temperature of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We also know there was air inside the LEM. It was pressurized to 1/3 sea level atmosphere, so the incredible roar of the engine would have produced considerable sound and vibration. According to some sources, even through their bubble helmets, the astronauts in the LEM could hear the noise of the thrusters firing, yet apparently they couldn't hear the roar of this powerful rocket engine. That's a little difficult to believe, isn't it? Even the space shuttle astronauts popping up into low Earth orbit have pointed out the extreme vibration and noise when thrusters fire from their craft, and the shuttle is very different from that of the flimsy LEM.
Sunny,
Compare this
Mesh and Dixon.
with this.
Okay, 75 feet. Guys looking good, down a half.
So unlike the pilot on the Bob Run, the astronauts' voices on the Apollo 11 soundtrack sound unbelievably dull. There's no impression of vibration whatsoever, nor do we hear the roar of the rocket engine beneath them. Even more bizarre are the circumstances in this next scene from Apollo 12.
Just before these astronauts touched down, they were apparently able to film the Surveyor 3 craft that had landed at that same site in April '67. But instead of just catching a fleeting glimpse through the LEM's triangular window as the LEM continued on its descent path, this sequence from the conquest of space, using original NASA film, is very suspect. This result is wholly consistent with imagery that could only be taken with a specially mounted camera capable of considerable lateral panning capacity. As we run the sequence again, notice how the perspective of the grounded Surveyor 3 changes as the camera moves around it. The LEM didn't have that capability. To obtain such a shot would actually need a special camera mount to give plenty of sideways movement, while the craft, such as a helicopter with the door removed, maintained level flight. Here is a type of helicopter rig that will be required in order to create the result in question. The published imagery is therefore not commensurate with the viewpoint from an onboard camera at the LEM's triangular window, being collectively rephotographed onto a continuous roll under entirely different technical conditions than we've been led to believe.
So what does Hasselblad have to say about this classic Aldrin picture? Does it look to Jan Lundberg as though the subject was lit?
Yes, it seems like he's standing in the spotlight. And I can't explain that. That escapes me. Why? So maybe you have to find Armstrong and ask him.
The most compelling piece of evidence in this photograph is not the measurements of the height of the camera, but the reticles, the little crosses that are superimposed on the image at the time the photograph is taken. The largest reticle appears at the center. That central position is fixed in the camera. It cannot move. You have to have, with an image, it hasn't been interfered with in any way, that reticule appearing in the center of the image. If we look at this famous photograph, we can see the central reticule towards the bottom of the astronaut's right leg. This is significantly offset from the center of the image. This cannot occur in that position unless the photograph has been copied and reframed.
I don't think this cross here necessarily...
We did a study on the statistical probability of landing a man on the moon and returning him, and it was something like 0.0014. This was taking into account the Van Allen radiation belt, solar flares, micrometeorites, all of the numerous hazards that astronauts would encounter and the possibility of failure. So obviously, when I heard that in 1959, I pretty much got the idea that going to the moon was a real risky thing.